What's up, guys? This is out here for the Team Fantasy Football League Commissioner Cody. We're here with your keeper locks. It's an exciting time of year because fantasy football is getting going. If anybody has talked to me over the last month or two, I've I've just exploded with enthusiasm and excitement for this season, every season. But you guys know how much I love this and how excited I am to be starting this whole process. And we got so many things are happening today. Right now, we just got our keeper lock. Later, in probably a couple hours, I will be doing the draft order with Mama. We will, you'll see it when you see it. But let's not get too carried away. We're here for one reason and one reason only. Keeper lock, baby. Let's go. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read off all of our keepers. They're all right here. I also have them on the screen behind there. And I have a couple things just to touch on with the keepers. Not that anything's bad or anything like that. I am thrilled to announce that we did not have a fill situation last year where players kept two players at the round value other than Kyle, but Kyle had the picks to back it up, which is perfectly permitted, which we'll get into. Lots to talk about. So starting off, we'll start off with our defending champion, Phil. Phil kept Patrick Mahomes with a round one value, Allen Robinson with a fourth round value, and an Aaron Rodgers with a fifth round value. Among the players that are back in the draft pool, if you guys haven't looked at the free agency, you can look on the app and see who's available in the draft pool. Travis Kelce on that list. Just off the top of my head, and David Montgomery. One of the things I wanted to note about Phil's decision making, not that there was anything wrong with it. I completely understand. It was either Mahomes or Kelce with the round one value. I understand going Mahomes. Then he had another decision between his Bears. It was either Montgomery with a sixth or Allen Robinson with a fourth. Not to say that he made the wrong decision. I just think that having that running back in a 16-team league in the sixth round, David Montgomery, that is, I think that might have been a better value, but I completely understand. I love me some A-Rob. I think that the Bears are going to be decent this year, especially when Justin Fields gets behind gets in the backfield. You know what I mean, as the quarterback, under center, whatever the fucking terminology is. And I don't know if I said it, but Aaron Rodgers with a fifth. Now that Aaron's back, obviously completely understand why you'd want to bring him back. Do I think you'll get him in a fifth if you would have drafted normally? Probably not. So I'm good with your keepers. I think they're very strong. They are very strong considering you won the championship last year. So, shows how much. Let's see. Shows how much. I'm just rambling. So moving on. I'm just gonna go at the top of the list now, because that's just how my shit's set up. Starting off with me, your commissioner. I kept Antonio Gibson with a seventh, which is magnificent. Darren Waller, which is a 12th. Again, the second best, in my opinion, the second best tight end in football, but it's still up for debate. And also round 17 value, T. Higgins. I gave up an arm and a leg to Dylan for that last year. I believe it was a fourth and a fifth. For the value, I think the T. Higgins future is extremely bright. I think that Jamar Chase is going to take some catches away, but at the same time, he's still T. Higgins. He has the professional resume from last year at least, so we know he can do it. And him and Burrow are locked in, at least based on last year. And even without Burrow, he still stepped up. So, I'm excited. I'm a little worried with Chase, but I'm very excited. And I like the value for my players. I didn't really give up any big pick rounds for my keepers. So, I'm very, very happy with my keepers. I don't have a 3, 4, or 5 in the draft. So to have, a top 15 running back in round 7, probably a top 20 receiver in round 17, and like I said, in my opinion, the second best tight end in football in round 12. Excellent job for me. It's also draft strategy. You guys know how invested I am in this. Moving on, we got Will. Will had a tough decision between Alvin Kamara and Devontae Adams. He chose to go with Kamara. with a round one value. I don't blame him for making that decision. However, I do worry about that Saints offense, and I do believe that again, Aaron Rodgers has something to prove because he wants another contract with a different team. So he's gonna, I think Devontae is gonna be a beast this year. Again, it's which one do you prefer more? I'm not knocking it. Just a matter of which stat do you get closer with. I again, great keeper. Kyler Murray with a fourth. Not much to say about that. I completely get that. And Lamar Jackson, a steal in the ninth. Still can't believe he drafted him in round 11 2 years ago when we first started this keepers stuff. So, more power to you. Very strong keepers for Will. The only decision, like I said, he had to make was Devontae or Kamara. He chose Kamara, he said in the chat, because he didn't want to change his name, smoking the Kamarawana. Who could blame him? I would love to smoke Kamarawana. I would love to have his strain if he ever had one. Moving on, we have Scott. Our other two-time champion, he's not defending, but Phil and Scott are the only two-time champions. Shout out to both of them. Scott kept Christian McCaffrey at 1. No-brainer. Calvin Ridley with a 3, which is a steal in the third. He's usually going, I believe, in the top 2 rounds, usually in the drafts I've seen. Austin Eckler in the 5th. He's usually going around 12 or 13 in the picks, depending on who likes who. So you can't really complain about that with Scott. I don't have any notes on here for Scott's team, but I know he let Dak go with a 6th round value, I believe, so who could blame him for that, coming off that injury. I know you got Zeke with a 1st, but, I'd rather have McCaffrey as well. I know you were looking at the value of Derek Carr. I get it. I would have kept those 3 as well. So, I like the value for Derek Carr. You probably get him you might even get him at that 17th or 18th round like you did last year. So, we'll see. Good keepers for Scott. Moving on to Hobert, we have the Bills native, Stephon Diggs, with a round 1 value. That was a no-brainer. He was arguably the best receiver. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he was one of the top receivers last year by far. I know I hated playing against him. Aaron Jones with a 2nd round value. His value skyrockets with Rodgers coming back. I think everybody can agree on that. And Justin Herbert, who I'm ready to see what he has for a 2nd-year season. He has the weapons. Let's just see what he can do with it. Hopefully the new coaching staff can build the offense around him and tailor to his abilities, because he definitely has a bright future. It's just a matter of if they screw it up or not. Moving on, we have Dylan. Dylan kept Michael Thomas with a 1st round value, Deontay Johnson with a 6th round value, and Joe Burrow with a 9th. Looking at your keepers, Michael Thomas with a 1, I am very worried about that. I understand Michael Thomas, great name, great receiver. That ankle surgery worries me very much. He will miss the beginning of the season, I believe. I think he said indefinitely. I don't know what that necessarily means, but I do think that, once he gets back, he'll be fine. Depending on the quarterback situation, I don't know what to say about that either. Again, with the Kamara thing, it's kind of a crapshoot in what you personally believe. I'm not knocking Michael Thomas. Without the quarterback situation, without the injury, even with the quarterback situation, he could be a 1st round pick. So I get it. I just wouldn't have done it myself. It's okay. Let's see, what else she had? Deontay is a 6th. I mean, a top 3 receiver in the 6th with 16-team draft. I completely get it. Joe Burrow with a 9, banking on comebacks on injuries. Deontay Johnson's been injured a lot of his career, lots of drops as well, even though he gets the target volume, and this is Ben's last ride, I get it. But Joe Burrow with that nasty knee injury, as somebody who has T. Higgins and gave you an arm and a leg for him, go Joe Burrow. I'm all for it. I need him to do well if T. Higgins is going to be worth the 4 and the 5. So, the only other person I would have thought about instead of Michael Thomas, just because of the value and everything, would have been Darrell Henderson. Obviously, he's not a keeper-level player. However, to have him in the 11th round, he is the only running back in that backfield, barring any signings or preseason, or how stuff plays itself out. So, that's the only person I would have thought about. I completely understand why you chose those three keepers based on your roster, and I'm good with it. Like I said, just depending on how you look at it and how you were looking to build your team, that's how I probably would have done it. But again, this is your team, and these are my opinions. My opinions are worth jack shit. If you guys don't remember from the power rankings last year, lots of conversation about that. I have an idea for how to do that this year, but I haven't actually done anything about it yet. So we'll see how the next month or two works out. Because I actually have a way to get averages and get an actual power ranking. But again, I have to work on Excel, and that takes a lot of time, and I'm not tech savvy. So with that being said, best of luck this year, Dylan. I know you have a lot of upside on your team. It's just a matter of your downside. How heavy is that? Eric, moving on. Tyreek Hill with a round 1 value, AJ Brown with a 3-round value, and Josh Allen with a 9th round value. Pretty cut and dry here. I don't have your name on the list, so that means that those are the guys that I probably would have kept as well. Tyreek Hill, no-brainer first-round pick in any 16-team league. AJ Brown, I know Julio's there, but he's definitely going in 2 and 3 in 12-team leagues, so 16, that's great value. And Josh Allen, I made a push for him at the end of last season, or at the end, trade deadline last year. 1 for a championship, but 2, 9-round value for Josh Allen. That's great value. Love it. So your top 3 guys are solid. I'm not as big on AJ Brown, but like I said, he's always proved me wrong, and I still can't get on board. So maybe with Julio next to him, he just doesn't get the volume, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. So, I hope it works out. But, Josh Allen 9-round value is just like Lamar Jackson in a 9-round value. So, excellent value. Moving on, we have Brandwagon. Jonathan Taylor with the 2nd-round value. Myles Gaskin picked up in free agency with an 8th-round value. And Daniel Jones acquired for me in our Tom Brady trade, 15-round value. I love the Daniel Jones keep. I was on him last year, but adding Kenny Golladay, getting Saquon back, improving the offensive line, new offensive coordinator. I don't think they have a new coordinator. Probably not. I don't know. I don't know too much about that part, but I like what they have. They have a ton of weapons. They have a ton of speed on the outside, great slot guys. Hopefully Evan Ingram can stay healthy. They have Kyle Rudolph now, I believe, for end zone threats. So Daniel Jones is going to be great this year. Myles Gaskin, they didn't sign anybody, which tells me that they're a fan of what he brings to the table, and he can carry the load. Now, obviously, they have other running backs on the roster. I don't know who. But they didn't sign anybody crazy, and they didn't go out and draft anybody crazy either. So, jumping on the Myles Gaskin wagon, especially for round 8, love the value. Jonathan Taylor, he's going top 6 in every draft that I've seen, every podcast that I listen to. Everybody's just loving Jonathan Taylor. I like Jonathan Taylor. I like the value for Jonathan Taylor. If you're getting him in the 2nd round, I love that. I'm just not, as somebody who's gotten burnt on 2nd-year running backs and guys who are looking to make that big step, and you take them in the 1st round and they disappoint. I've had a track record of that, so I prefer typically to go, at least through my trials and tribulations, to go through and get myself, more proven commodities. Again, I hope that I'm wrong. I love the value. Like I said, 2nd-round value, you still have you don't have the 1st because you traded to Kyle. So great value, excellent value. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm liking the value for Jonathan Taylor and your keepers, because you didn't have the 1st. You have yourself the upside quarterback. It depends on what they do. You have the upside running back, 2 upside running backs at great values. And you have my 3rd. So even though you don't have the 1st, you're still bringing in two thirds right after that 2nd-round value. So I like the value. I like the team. I like the upside. Moving on, we have Liam, Derrick Henry with a round 1, DK Metcalf with a 9, and Kareem Hunt with a 5. So Kareem Hunt 5, DK Metcalf 9. Let's see. Obviously, Derrick Henry, no-brainer rushing champion. He just doesn't have the PPR, but it doesn't matter. You won your division last year with it. Doesn't matter. Excuse me. Here come the yawns. One thing I did want to touch on is I do worry about Kareem Hunt with a 5-round value. I think you probably could have gotten him a little bit later. especially with how, in IDP in my league and everything like that, adding punters and stuff. I feel like you could have, redrafted him in the 5th round or later, because of all the buzz Nick Chubb gets. But again, this is what keepers are for. If you don't think you're going to get these players back in that value, make sure you keep them. That's the whole point. I would have, honestly, there's 2 players on your team with better values than I believe Kareem Hunt. Let's start off, let's go in round order. Ryan Tannehill, top 10 quarterback in the 10th round. You have Derrick Henry. I would have, thought a little harder on it. I'm not saying I would have done it. But TJ Hawkinson in the 13th. I probably would have preferred Tannehill over Hunt and Hawkinson with the value. But I like Hawkinson as 6th in the 13th round value because a lot of experts, I'm not sure how I feel about this yet, but a lot of the experts are talking about how Jared Goff and TJ Hawkinson and how it's a wasteland out there and somebody's got to catch the ball and yada, 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 yada. It's just buying what they're selling. I'm not saying that I am. I'm just saying that based on rankings and consensus and all these things that go in line with all that, I would have probably kept him over Hunt as well with the value. Again, your team, you know more than I do with your team, and you have better feelings. You won your division. I did not, so continue. Continue, Liam, continue. Moving on, we have Greg with Dalvin Cook with a round 1 value. Surprising Tyler Lockett round 4 value. And Justin Jefferson with a crazy 14th round value. So off the jump, we have Dalvin Cook with round 1. That's a no-brainer. He's always a top 2 or 3 pick in every draft I've seen, every expert draft, yada, yada, yada. Set it and forget it type running back. Then you move down to Tyler Lockett. The reason I'm questionable about Tyler Lockett is because I want nothing to do with him. Not in any league. There isn't one scenario where I'm like, oh, Tyler Lockett's available. I should pick him up. I don't care how late in the draft. I don't want it. He goes 3 games straight with goose eggs, and then all of a sudden he drops a 60 bomb. Like, I would have preferred to have 20 each week than have a 60 bomb. You know what I mean? I am anti-Tyler Lockett. I'm worried about that offense. I don't know what they're going to do. They let Russ cook in the beginning. Then they ran it down everybody's throats and fell apart in the end of the season. So, I know I just kind of breezed over Metcalf with Liam, but I love the value for Metcalf at a 9th round value for Liam way more than I like Tyler Lockett at a 4. So that's just to kind of put it in perspective, and kind of a replacement idea. It's tough because you're more or less throwing a dart at this point. Because the rest of your team, I wouldn't have kept. You were going to keep Cam Akers. You guys were talking about it, but because he tore his Achilles, smart choice. You could have kept Deshaun Watson, I believe, with a 3rd round value. I don't blame you for not doing that because God knows what the fuck's happening with that, whether it's legal issues or getting traded. I want no part of that offense either. So, I get it, but I look at a guy like Damian Harris at a 16th round value, and as I said, we're throwing darts here. I just think that the upside in a 16th round value for Damian Harris is much, much stronger than the upside for a Tyler Lockett in the 4th round. Just my opinion. Again, I'm just the commissioner. I'm not always right. They beat me in my own division last year. So you know what? Do what you do, fellas. Do what you do, because I obviously don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Solid keepers. Justin Jefferson. We'll get into Justin Jefferson in a moment. I love that. 14th round value for them. I hate them. Not in real life, but fantasy-wise, I hate them because they beat me in my own division last year. But I love the value for Justin Jefferson. And Dalvin Cook's strong too, so 2 out of 3 is not bad. I'm not a fan of Tyler Lockett, though, and I'll take that to the bank. Moving on, we have Kyle. Kyle's 2 keepers. He had Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley with round 1 values. 2 guys in 1 round. We'll get into that in one moment. And Baker Mayfield with a 9th round value. So Kyle, just as a friendly reminder to everybody and how the keepers work, you can only keep players with the picks you have and the values those players are worth. So For example, he traded Brandwagon last year, and he gave Brandwagon a nice haul at the time. It was like, oh man, shit, okay, but you're giving a first and say, the trade worked out very nicely on paper. Didn't work out for really either side. At least we won't know for Saquon yet, but it didn't work out for either side really last year. Brandwagon obviously faded into the light, if you will. But because he acquired that extra first round pick, he has 2 first round picks. He just elected to keep 2 first round pick players in Saquon and Nick Chubb. So if anybody had any questions about, oh, how did that happen, or why did he get to do it, and yada yada yada, as you remember last year, Phil made that hiccup with I can't remember who it was. I think it was Kelsey and Mahomes, or I don't know. He had 2 first round picks he was debating, or he kept, and he, unfortunately for himself, lost one of them. I allowed him to pick one, but he wasn't able to keep both of them or switch for somebody else. So that's the consequence if you do not follow the keeper guidelines. I feel like I'm very communicative. Remember that word last year, fellas? Very communicative about that specific rule. And Kyle, and also as a shout out to Kyle and Brandwagon, they both reached out to me before that trade just to make sure the trade was valid. So I appreciate that, and I encourage that for everybody in the league. If you have a question about a trade, if it's valid or not, just reach out to me. I am an unbiased third party as a commissioner. If you give me advice, I am Cody, your rival, so don't ask me for advice. I'll give you whatever advice I see fit. But when it comes to the rule book and the integrity of the league and all that fun stuff, nothing is more important than me helping make sure that things move along smoothly so we don't have any issues at all during the season, in the future, etc. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to Kyle for working with the rules. He did what he did. He's got 2 potential top 5 running backs, depending on their health, obviously. Chubb got hurt a lot last year, and Saquon, obviously didn't play much last year. And he might not play the first week. Nobody can commit on what he's going to do this, first couple weeks of the season in New York. So, moving on, save the best for last. Craig, we have a lot of value over here. Chase Claypool with a 10th round value. The Steelers defense with 11th round value, and Tua with a 16th round value. So I would like to say, before I get into that, shout out to Dylan for not keeping Justin Tucker this year, as he kept a kicker last year, and shout out to Craig for keeping a defense. Now obviously they were the catapult. They were the Achilles heel to his team last year. Obviously he didn't have much else on his team that he didn't make the playoffs. It was a rough year for him. But that defense, as much as I rag keeping defenses and kickers and all that extra shit, shout out to Craig. He kept the defense. And that defense was magnificent last year. All around that, there's a reason they went 11-0, and that defense was the reason because of it. Chase Claypool with a 10th round value, as I mentioned in the chat yesterday. I was driving through the south side around 9 or 10 o'clock. I saw Juju and Chase Claypool sitting, not sitting, but standing outside on the south side, just chilling. I'm not going to touch on the pandemic. I'm not going to touch on Delta variant. I'm not going to touch on any of that. All I can say is, with all the things that are going on, all the negative publicity and all this extra stuff, I just think that that's not the best idea. That's it. Anyway, I like the value. I think that, Ben has a lot to prove. The offense has a lot to do. He's a great receiver. He hit a rookie wall last year. I think that the potential is very, very high. I love the 10th round value for it because he's being drafted as a top 30 receiver. Love it. Steelers defense, I'm not sure I would have taken them in the 11th or any defense in the 11th because we have IDP and there's so much other stuff going on. But again, that was your Achilles heel last year, and who am I to tell you not to? Because honestly, they're the reason you scored points last season. And Tua, the upside's there. He has all the weapons. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm a fan of the Dolphins. Shout out to Brandwagon. That's his team. I'm on the bandwagon when it comes to the Dolphins. I'd like to see Tua take that next step. Does he? I don't know. Will he? I hope so. But 16th round value, you did not risk any of your draft strategy this year with your keepers, and I love that, Craig. Excellent job on your keepers. Yeah, that's it for the notes that I had on the keepers. Jay, Joe, Jerry, and Doug. Lots of J's. Jesus. Literally with a guy named Jay. You guys obviously don't have any keepers. Now, when you are drafting this year, it's important that you guys look at your values. When you're drafting certain players, this is where you add rookies values because, you got guys like T. Higgins that I drafted him last year in the 18th round. That's why I went after him and traded for him. That's why he's a 17th round value this year. The upside is enormous. You look at Waller. I drafted him 2 years ago in the 14th round, and he's been big ever since. And now he's looked at as the second best tight end, and I think he could take over Kelsey over the next year or two. Obviously, Kelsey's 32, getting older, but just those are the things that I think about when I think about drafting and this keeper league and stuff. Ideally, I'd like to have, well, I don't know what I was really going at there, but ideally, value's important here, and that's what I go after. So I have 3 awards that I have here on my little notes here. Nothing really important, just my personal opinion, if you guys care enough. Best player value that was kept. What went into this? You had T. Higgins at a 17th round value, Waller at a 12. Obviously, those are my guys. But, you look at Metcalf at 9, Justin Jefferson at 14, Claypool could be a 10. There's a lot of Josh Allen at 9, Lamar Jackson at 9, things like that. Just crazy value for players, and the players that I could see being kept over the next decade, literally, because they'd be the same fucking round. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. And the guy who takes the cake, even though I started off with 2 of my great value players, it's not my guys. It's Justin fucking Jefferson. That man put up 1,400 yards last year in a 14th round value. 14. And the sky is the limit for this guy. This guy is losing his own team on the fucking practice field. It's nuts. So shout out to Greg for keeping that value there. And when trades approach, say somebody wants Justin Jefferson, having him in a 13th round next year, if you were to keep him, is huge. Like, it's not like you're trading for a first round pick at this point. You're trading for a first round pick in the future, because Justin Jefferson, I think, could be that future first round pick in the 14th round. That's huge. Shout out to you guys for keeping him and acknowledging that. It was a no-brainer to keep him. Best team value kept. This might be looked at as biased, but my value is the best. For the player calibers that I have, with the round value that I have them all kept at. Keep in mind, I have a 1 and a 2 first round, second round pick. I don't have 3, 4, and 5. So to have myself a top 15 receiver in round 7, to have myself arguably the second best tight end in football in round 12, and to throw in a legit top 20 receiver in round 17 that with the upside of a top 10 with a healthy quarterback and decent offense, is going to have to throw the ball because their defense is trash. The value there is insurmountable. Now, honorable mentions, I talked myself into Craig a little bit because of the 10, 11, 16th rounds that he put his team's going to be drafted in. But the caliber of players just didn't match. And you'll see with the next one, I have the best overall keepers. Why I didn't pick those, this is a 3-way tie because I couldn't quite decide. But that's why I was the best value keeper. I just, the value is there. Moving on to our last award, the best overall keepers, regardless of value, just your players as a whole. Value is important, but not as important as what I just won my own award for. So it was a 3-way tie. You guys can kind of chop it up however you'd like, in no particular order, just because the names are in a specific order on my screen here. We're gonna start with Phil. He won the championship last year with Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Allen Robinson. Regardless if I would have done Montgomery or anything else, Phil won the championship last year. Who is it to me to second guess Phil? I'm not a two-time champion. I'm a one-time champion. Phil's a two-time champion. Phil knows what he's doing. Shout out to Phil. Moving on, our second two-time champion, Scott. Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best player in football. Calvin Ridley, his ceiling doesn't exist. He's like, this year, no Julio, like, love Ridley. Austin Eckler, first round pick, going in the 5th. Like, you have 2 top 5 potential, we're in PPR, so 2 top 5 running backs, potentially, and a top 5 receiver, potentially. Do I need to say more? I don't think so. And then third and finally, not the best, but save the best for last. We got Will. Any team with the dual threat quarterbacks of Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, like, what? Are you kidding me? And then you throw in Alvin Kamara, even if you were to throw Devontae Adams in there, like, it didn't matter. But Kamara in there with he's a dual threat as well, catching and running. So it's like you got 3 dual threat players, quarterbacks and running backs. And I mean, the last couple of years, you've been at the top of the leaderboard the whole season. Obviously, last year you had quite the roller coaster. But those 3 core, like, between you 3, I feel like it's 15 against, not 15, math. 13 against 3. You know what I mean? In fantasy, just as like the keeper tiers. So, shout out to Phil, Will, and Scott. You have two-time defending you have two-time champions, and a guy who's been in the top 4 both the last 2 years. I know the year before he was 4. You had the best record and lost. Yeah, I beat you. I never forget. Yeah, you had the best record, and I beat you in the first round. You were all upset, but you had an incredible team. And then last year, you had an incredible team, too. I mean, you had the most points. You and Scott were back and forth with the most points ever a couple times. I mean, it's just well-deserved to both of you. With that being said, that is your Keeper Lock video. Like I said, we're gonna do the draft order here pretty soon. We'll have the draft board put up. I will have the draft order on it, and I will have the keepers with the draft picks on there. So, like, I know we have some swaps and some draft pick trading that happened last year and stuff, so I will go through and make sure that is very clear for everybody to see on the draft board, so you know where you're picking. There's not going to be any confusion. And yeah, so I hope that everybody enjoyed the video. I know that I am so excited just to do all this stuff. This is the best time of year, and hands down, I don't care about Christmas is great and all, whatever. Thanksgiving, I love to eat, my favorite holiday, but fantasy football is the best time of year. Throw birthdays out the door. I don't fucking care about that either. So yeah, if you have any questions, as I said, reach out. There is no trading. You can trade draft picks for draft picks. Everybody's going to have the same amount of draft picks. Oh, and also friendly reminder, the draft is 18 rounds, but our rosters are going to be like 21 deep. So free agency is important. Just a thought. Any questions, as always, reach out. I appreciate you guys. I look forward to having an incredible year this year, and we'll be recording the draft lottery here pretty soon. I'm very excited. I know Mama's excited to be a part of it as well. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. Peace out, fellas.